All right, everyone. Trump is hoodwinking the Democrats again, only they don't really understand that. And I don't see many people, funnily enough, on the right realizing this. It's like when he was targeting AOC and Tlaib and all these others, and it was obvious that his goal was to get the Democrats to circle the wagons around them, protect them, and talk well of them, and then also allow them a platform to sink the Democratic Party. Because people like AOC and Tlaib and Ilhan Omar are unpopular, except with a fringe group of fanatics within the Democratic Party. They're not even popular in the Democratic Party, believe it or not. The same is true of Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton is one of those people. In public, the Democrats will say nothing bad about him. Liberal white people will never say anything bad about him. They don't want to be labeled racist. In private, they all understand Al Sharpton is a race baiter. He has made a career out of pretending to care about underprivileged black people. He's made a career out of pretending to serve the disadvantaged. But it's pretense. He makes millions and millions of dollars, lives in his mansion, and then the only way he can see the ghetto is from his fucking private plane or something like that. That's really what it's about. Trump is now pointing this out. Hey, Al Sharpton has been a racist for a long time, and he's got problems, and he hates police, and said, well, yeah. I don't think that it's genuine. Here's the thing. Sharpton's definitely a racist. But I don't think that he's got like some active, bitter hate against white people. I think it's part of that same opportunism. It's really more he's just gotten used to saying weird shit about people who happen to be white in order to make money. Like after, what shooting was it? He was taking trash bins from school to school or church to church or something to collect donations in the wake of one of those police-involved shootings. Like, wasn't it the Trayvon Martin shooting or some shit like that? I mean, he does weird stuff. And it was funny to see him standing next to Farrakhan, who was at Aretha Franklin's funeral there. Bill Clinton was there too. These people are all very nervous. But this is definitely strategic. This is 4D chess. Watch this. Al Sharpton is not well-liked among Americans. The average American does not think that Al Sharpton is actually fighting for racial togetherness, equality, good things. No, he fights for Al Sharpton. He fights for Al Sharpton's pocketbook, specifically, his wallet and his bank account. Therefore, Trump is getting the silent majority to look at the Democratic Party that right now is saying wonderful things about how great Al Sharpton is. And he's done this with Baltimore in a more general sense. He's gotten the Democrats to now ignore the problems of the inner city. It's literally strategy. The Democrats, the Baltimore Sun, for example, it's crucifying Trump right now, had an article from 2018 where they had showcased a documentary about the rat infestation in Baltimore, literally saying some of the same shit that Trump has said literally in regards to Elijah Cummings. Somehow that's now considered racist. What he's done is he's forced the Democratic Party to circle the wagons around untenable positions. He's forced them to defend the indefensible, in other words. AOC and socialism. Ilhan Omar, who is radical in the most literal fundamentalist sense, a literal religious radical. He's forcing them to defend the rot and decay in the inner cities and pretend that there's no problem there, and that the Democrats that run these cities haven't failed completely for, in some cases, over half a century. Elijah Cummings represents, yes, a city that is blighted. It is one of the highest crime locations in the United States. It does contain systemic poverty. It has large abandoned swaths. It's looking increasingly like Detroit. The Democrats are so deranged when it comes to Trump that they would rather ignore all of that and the communities therein in Baltimore, ignore all of the problems that they themselves have talked about for 20 years now with regards to the ghetto. We need to clean up the inner cities, big problems, we need more money for the programs and stuff. They have abandoned that in 24 hours in order to attack Trump. Now they're jumping to defend Al Sharpton. Kamala Harris comes out with glowing praise of Sharpton. She's insane enough to believe that this is a good strategy politically. To wine and dine the 20 or 30% of people in the country that actually have a positive opinion of someone like Al Sharpton. It's probably barely a majority of Democrats that have a kind of tolerable opinion of someone like Al Sharpton. The Jesse Jackson, all these people. And these people spent especially the 1990s constantly pandering in the most crazy of senses, and they basically blew all of their capital at that time. Don't try to fool me. into believing that even the majority of black people in this country support Al Sharpton. I don't think they do. I think the average person, regardless of their skin color, understands that Sharpton, the multi-millionaire, does not represent the ghetto. He doesn't represent Highland Park. He doesn't represent Baltimore. No, what he represents is that he sold out in order to make a huge amount of money. It's like more power to him in the capitalistic sense, but he did it dishonestly. He is a con man. It was funny to see Trump as well. He calls Sharpton a con man, which is objectively true. He's been conning people for however many decades. And then Sharpton tried to come out and insult Trump, saying, well, if I was a con man, then I'd be on his cabinet or something. And it's like, yeah, that's not going to work, dude. Your heyday was 20, 30 years ago. You're a relic, to tell the truth. Trump is still relevant. He's the president of the United States, a little bit different. Trump could have fallen, by the way, into the same problem. It's funny because Trump hung out with these people. He knows them intimately and personally. When he was getting awards from Al Sharpton didn't call him a racist, now did he? But Trump knew that he was a con man. He was conning people at the time too, dude. He's a New York City business Dem developer billionaire. Do you think he didn't stab people in the back to get where he is? Of course he did. That's why I pointed that out before he even got elected. Yeah, he's a backstabber. Yeah, and Trump is a con in some senses. But he's ours. He's our backstabbing con. And that's a lot better if you're trying to negotiate with China on a trade deal. You don't want some intellectual elite like Obama who's going to take his collegiate mentality forward, his very legislative style mentality, and try to go and fucking deal with China. It's not going to work. Or dealing with Russia, even worse. Dealing with them takes a Trump, not an Obama at this point. And some milquetoast sort of neocon like Bush, even if he has executive experience, isn't going to work much either. As far as Al Sharpton goes, my goodness, the Democratic Party wants to choose this hill to die on? Al Sharpton, really? You're going to destroy your 2020 odds in order to defend Al Sharpton? How old is the dude? Isn't he in his mid-70s now? He's going to be in the grave in 10 years probably anyway. Why the hell bother to defend him? Why don't you do what you did to Clinton when you realized it was indefensible, his past, when you realized that according to modern standards of the hashtag #MeToo fucking era, that Bill Clinton would not be able to be elected today and would be thrown out of the Democratic Party on his ass. You abandoned him. You threw him under the bus. Why not Al Sharpton? What, does he know who had too many skeletons in too many closets he knows of? Does he know who Epstein was bringing to his island or some crazy shit like that? Is that why you're not willing to crucify him? Trump also, Trump is almost, hear me out, he's almost taking advantage of the Democratic Party's usually very positive strategy of circling the wagons. Normally this is a strength. Normally it means that if someone's enveloped in a minor, so like Northam or something, Northam gets enveloped in his blackface scandal. They circled the wagons and kept him from getting kicked out. At least some of them did. Those that didn't made it difficult for him. Now it looks like the Virginia political system is in uproar. It looks like probably Virginia goes red, in all honesty, in 2020. Trump is going to target it heavily. Good. I think that would be wonderful. And if he flips Virginia, he wins re-election. Because if he can manage to do that, he'd hold most of the other competitive states. I don't think there'd be any risk in Michigan or Pennsylvania, and he'd go on to be reelected. He should target it heavily. He should put all available resources into Virginia for some time until it looks like he's got it in the bag, and then he can go back to the Rust Belt. He can ignore Florida, by the way. If he grabs up those 3 states, he wins re-election without Florida regardless, so it doesn't even matter. Virginia's close enough. It would be impressive if he managed to flip it. He's got the Democrats defending people that alienate most of the swing voters in the country. Al Sharpton is not a name that you think of when you think of, hey, I want to put forward some Democrats, some Democratic names, campaign based on them, and have them highly visible to win over a competitive state in which there are a lot of independent voters. I'm going after Iowa. I'm going after Michigan or Florida or Virginia or something. I'm campaigning in New Hampshire. Who do I want to be a surrogate? Oh, Al Sharpton. Yeah, Al Sharpton's going to be my surrogate in Florida. Do you think that would be a good strategy? But now Al Sharpton and Elijah Cummings are now joining AOC and Ilhan Omar as the faces of the Democratic Party. And this really helps. Here's another thing that helps, and this is separate news. Same day, what happens in the DCCC? I think the corporate arm of the DNC responsible for coordination, if I remember correctly. Oh, one of their executive directors resigns. Why? Because several Hispanic caucus members within the party were dismayed at the fact that a white person was leading the DCCC, calling specifically for a person of color, which is non-existent, to lead it because they want more diversity. No, 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 she hasn't done enough to address the lack of diversity. In other words, they decided to hire people based on merit, and the fact that there were too many white people in that pool dismayed us. Oh my God, the ratio resembles the U.S. population. That's not appropriate. It should look like a bag of Skittles instead. Seems to be the direction the Dems are going in. We want to be more inclusive, but we don't want to include swing voters. We don't want to include the working class. We don't want to include males. We don't want to include whites. We call people deplorable if they voted the wrong way last time around. Yeah, we're so inclusive in the Democratic Party. No, you're not. No, you're the non-inclusive party. You're the bigot party, actually, at this point. It's funny to watch the Democrats really go back to their roots after a very brief moment in time, really post-90s through the Obama era, when they weren't the wedge issue party. The Republicans sort of took that up with the Evangelicon bullshit for a while and ran with it. Trump restored them to working order. I don't see anyone in the Dem field that's capable of restoring them as a party. Biden kind of tries, but I mean, he has to delve into wedge issues too because there's so many far leftists within the party. The Che shirt crowd and shit like that. Al Sharpton, though, my goodness, Trump is a master of this. I mean, literally, he doesn't even have to play chess. He could be playing checkers and they're playing tic-tac-toe. That's about all. Peace out.